Vienna, 1791, a city wrapped in snow, where candlelight flickers in narrow windows and the sound of carriage wheels echoes on cobblestone streets. Behind gilded doors, nobles dance in glittering halls, raising their glasses to fortune and fame. But in one modest house, far from the laughter of aristocrats, the greatest composer of the age lies fevered, shivering, and whispering to himself. His name, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. And this is the story of his final symphony. A story woven not only from notes and melodies, but from mystery, shadow, and whispers of the supernatural. Have you ever wondered what it feels like when genius stands at the edge of death? Imagine a man who had written music so divine, people believed angels themselves had guided his hand. Now picture him, frail and restless, scratching quills across parchment as if racing time itself, racing against an invisible hand that seemed to tighten with every passing day. He knew death was near. But more than that, he believed death had already knocked on his door. The Requiem, a mass for the dead, Mozart's last unfinished masterpiece, and according to many, a work he did not merely compose, but lived. He believed he was writing it for himself. Each note, each phrase was a reflection of his own descent into the unknown. Some say he was poisoned, others that he was cursed, and some whisper that the Requiem was more than music, that it was a ritual, a summoning, a score etched not for the living, but for eternity itself. It begins with a visitor, a man cloaked in gray, his face obscured, his voice low and cold. He approached Mozart with a commission to write a requiem, a funeral mass. But this man never revealed for whom it was written. Mozart, frail but entranced, accepted. From that moment forward, the music consumed him. Friends recalled how he would stare into empty corners of his room, listening as if unseen choirs whispered the notes directly into his ear. His hands trembled, his body weakened, but the Requiem grew, and so did his conviction that he was writing his own farewell. What was this shadowy figure, a servant of Count Walsegg, the eccentric noble who sought to claim the work as his own? Or was he something else, a harbinger, a phantom clothed in mortal guise? Mozart's wife, Constanze, recalled how her husband would wake at night drenched in sweat, crying out that he was being hunted, that someone, or something, wanted him gone. He was only 35, but to those around him, he seemed to be vanishing into another world long before his final breath. And so the mystery begins. Was Mozart's death a plot of jealous rivals? A punishment for his ties to Freemasonry and the dangerous secrets of their rituals? Or was it something darker, a curse, a pact, or a fate written not by human hands, but by the music itself? Tonight, we step into those shadows. We open the doors of Mozart's final days. Together, we will follow the trail of feverish notes, secret symbols, and whispered testimonies that have haunted centuries. We will ask the questions historians fear to ask, and we will gaze upon the possibility that music, true music, is not only sound, but power. Because this story is not just about a man. It is about the thin line between genius and madness, between art and magic, between the living and the dead. And if you stay with me until the end, you will see why Mozart's Requiem was never simply a composition. It was a message left to us from the other side of the veil. The story of Mozart's Requiem is like a labyrinth, each corridor lined with shadows, each turn leading not to clarity, but to further questions. To walk through it is to step into a world where history and myth intertwine, where superstition whispers alongside truth. It began with the visitor. Eyewitnesses described him as a man cloaked in gray, whose features remained eerily hidden. He came not as a friend, not even as a patron, but as a phantom messenger. He commissioned Mozart to compose a Requiem Mass, but refused to tell him for whom it was written. Some say this man was a servant of Count Franz von Walsegg, a nobleman notorious for commissioning music and then passing it off as his own creation. But the way this messenger appeared and vanished, the chilling aura that lingered after his visits, it felt like something more. Mozart himself began to believe that the Requiem was meant not for a patron, but for himself. "I am writing my own funeral music," he reportedly said, his eyes wide and filled with dread. Each note became an echo of his own mortality. Every measure felt like a step deeper into his grave. The gray messenger returned again and again, demanding progress, pressuring Mozart as his health declined. Neighbors whispered about the composer's haunted appearance, how he would pause mid-conversation as if hearing something others could not. Was it the ticking of death's clock, or voices only he could hear? By late autumn of 1791, Mozart's condition worsened. He suffered fevers, hallucinations, and swelling so severe that his body seemed to betray him. Yet he continued to work, clutching quill and ink with trembling hands. Visitors found him pale, drenched in sweat, muttering fragments of the Requiem's text as though rehearsing for his own funeral. At night he awoke gasping, claiming that spectral figures stood at his bedside. Constanze, his wife, tried desperately to soothe him. She later recalled how he would fix his eyes on empty corners, whispering, "Do you not see them? They are waiting for me." Whispers spread through Vienna. Was Mozart poisoned? Some believed Antonio Salieri, his rival, had arranged it. Others suspected the Freemasons, for whom Mozart had written symbolic music filled with esoteric meaning. His opera, The Magic Flute, contained references many deemed too revealing of secret rites. Had the Brotherhood silenced him? Or was it, as Mozart himself feared, that a higher, darker force had chosen him as its vessel? There is something uncanny in the Requiem itself. Its opening chords are heavy, like the tolling of bells across eternity. The introitus seems less like prayer and more like invocation, as though the voices call not upward to heaven, but downward into unseen depths. The Dies Irae, with its thunderous fury, evokes not simply judgment, but conjuration. Some musicologists claim the Requiem follows patterns not only of Catholic liturgy, but of ritual. The repetition, the crescendos, the layering of voices, it mirrors the structure of ceremonial invocations used by mystics and secret societies of the 18th century. Was Mozart aware, or was he channeling something beyond himself? He once confessed to a friend that music came to him in complete visions, as if dictated from elsewhere. In those final weeks, he seemed less like a composer and more like a scribe, transcribing what invisible choirs sang into his ear. Let us return to the idea of poisoning. Mozart often said he felt he was being poisoned, slowly, deliberately. His symptoms fit: fever, swelling, vomiting, weakness. But who would have wanted him dead? Salieri's name lingers in popular imagination, though historians argue there is little evidence. And yet, Salieri himself, years later, reportedly confessed in a fit of madness that he had indeed poisoned Mozart. Was it guilt speaking or delirium? The Masonic theory is more chilling. Mozart, as a Freemason, had stepped into a world of secrets and rituals. The magic flute was filled with symbols. The number 3, the trials by fire and water, the temple of wisdom. Some believed he had revealed too much, and in secret societies, betrayal is rarely forgiven. Was his Requiem, then, both punishment and silencing? December 4, 1791. Mozart lay in bed, surrounded by a few loyal friends and pupils. His body was frail, but his mind remained tethered to the Requiem. They gathered around him to sing the completed sections, voices trembling in the candlelit chamber. Witnesses said Mozart himself tried to sing along, weak, gasping, but insistent. At one moment he broke down in tears, whispering that he could already hear the music completed in his head. "Did I not say I was writing it for myself?" he told Constanze. In the night his fever worsened. Some say he raved, calling upon unseen beings to wait a little longer, to let him finish his work. At 12:55 a.m., December 5th, he passed away, at only 35 years old. The Requiem remained unfinished. His pupil, Franz Xaver Süssmayr, later completed it. But some whisper that the music we hear today is but a shadow of what Mozart intended, that the true Requiem, the one dictated to him by forces unseen, died with him. The mystery did not end with his death. Mozart was buried in a common grave, as was customary for the time, but no one knows exactly where. His bones were lost, scattered, unmarked. For a man whose music reached the heavens, his earthly remains vanished into dust and anonymity. The Gray Messenger? He disappeared after Mozart's death, as if he had never existed. Count Walsegg did indeed try to claim the Requiem as his own, but history remembered the truth. Yet the figure's spectral presence still lingers in the story, like a shadow never dispelled. And the Requiem itself? For centuries, it has carried an aura of dread. Audiences speak of a weight that descends when it is performed, as though something ancient stirs within the music. Scholars point out mathematical symmetries within its structure, patterns that echo mystical traditions. Was Mozart composing, or was he channeling? What if the Requiem is not merely a composition, but a message, a code, a ritual in sound? Many composers have spoken of music arriving in dreams, of feeling like vessels rather than creators. But with Mozart, the intensity is chilling. His obsession, his terror, his conviction that death itself stood over his shoulder, all of it hints at something beyond ordinary genius. Perhaps the Requiem was never meant to be finished. Perhaps it was designed to remain a doorway, ajar, incomplete, forever open to the echoes that birthed it. Each performance becomes less a concert and more a summoning, a repetition of the last words of a dying genius who saw beyond the veil. And perhaps that is why the Requiem endures not simply as music, but as myth. Because within its chords lies not only the soul of Mozart, but the whisper of something that does not belong to this world. The story of Mozart's Requiem leaves us with more questions than answers. Who was the mysterious messenger? Was it merely a servant of Count Walsegg, or something far more spectral? Did the Freemasons punish Mozart for revealing their secrets, or was his decline simply the cruel hand of fate? And why, above all, did Mozart himself feel so certain that he was composing his own funeral music? What chills us most is not simply his death, but the way he seemed to anticipate it, note by note, bar by bar. In the final weeks, he no longer wrote as a man, but as a prophet, as though his music was dictated by powers beyond human comprehension. When we listen to the Requiem, we are not only hearing Mozart, we are hearing the breath of the unseen, the echo of a world that runs parallel to ours, just beyond the thin veil of life and death. And yet, the greatest mystery may be that the Requiem remains unfinished. It is a fragment, a door left ajar. Scholars tell us that Süssmayr completed it, but listeners know better. They feel the rupture, the sudden shift where Mozart's hand falls silent. It is as though the Requiem itself refuses completion, as though the last words of the Mass must remain suspended in eternity, forever unanswered. Some say that is why the Requiem carries such weight when performed. It is not just music, it is ritual. Each time the opening chords sound, we reawaken the same forces that surrounded Mozart's deathbed. Each voice, each note, is part of a dialogue with the unknown. And in that sense, the Requiem is alive. It continues to breathe, to whisper, to call. Think about it. More than 2 centuries have passed, and yet people still debate the Gray Messenger, the poison, the Masons, the visions. Why? Because something in this story refuses to die. It clings to us, insisting that we look deeper, that we question what we think we know about genius, about death, about the boundary between creation and the supernatural. Perhaps Mozart's Requiem was never written for Walsegg. Perhaps it was never written for Mozart himself. Perhaps it was written for us, for every listener who sits in the darkness, waiting for the voices to rise, for the trumpets to sound, for the shadows to stir. And now, dear listener, the story passes to you. What do you believe? Was Mozart poisoned? Did he glimpse beyond the veil? Or was he simply consumed by paranoia and illness? Was the Requiem a divine gift or an infernal bargain? The truth may never be known, but the questions remain, haunting, urgent, alive. If you, like us, are drawn to these mysteries, if you feel the shiver when history and myth intertwine, then join us. Subscribe to our channel, Forgotten Archives. Give this story a like if it moved you, if it unsettled you, if it made you think twice about what lies behind the music we so casually play, and most importantly, share your thoughts in the comments. What do you believe happened to Mozart? Was the Requiem his swan song or a message from beyond? Your voice matters because it continues the dialogue. The same dialogue that began when Mozart lifted his pen and wrote the first trembling notes of his final masterpiece. 2 centuries later, the conversation is still alive, between us, between you, and perhaps between something greater still. So let us keep searching, keep questioning, keep remembering. For the past is never truly gone. The dead still speak, sometimes in whispers, sometimes in music, and in the case of Mozart, perhaps in both.